I was halfway through reheating some sad leftover chili when my phone buzzed on the counter. Not the ringtone, the buzz. The one I'd assigned years ago to only 4 people: my parents, my ex-wife, and my brother, Jonah. For a second, I didn't think. I just grabbed for it like muscle memory from a life I didn't have anymore. Then I saw the name glowing on the screen, and the spoon slipped right out of my hand. Jonah calling. 5 years. 5 years since they found his truck half buried under ice, doors flung open like he'd stepped out mid-conversation. 5 years since the search team came back shaking their heads. 5 years since I'd answered a phone call from him. The screen vibrated again. I swear the kitchen got colder, like the air thickened, waiting. I answered. At first, it was just wind, that sharp, cutting kind you only hear in the mountains when the weather flips faster than you can blink. Then there was a voice, thin and warped, like it was being dragged across miles of bad reception. Sam. My chest locked up. It wasn't just someone sounding like him. It was him. The way he said my name, that half-whisper like he was leaning in close to a campfire. "Jonah?" I said. I didn't recognize my own voice. The wind swallowed everything for a second. Then, "Don't come here." A pause, short but shaking. "It's not what you think." The line crackled so loudly I jerked the phone away. "Where are you? Jonah, where—" A sound broke through. Not quite a scream, not quite metal. Something between, wet, bending, wrong. Then, "Sam, please, don't let it see you." The call cut out. I stood in my kitchen like an idiot, phone still pressed to my ear, chili cooling in the microwave behind me. A voice I'd grieved for, a brother I'd buried in every way except physically, had just begged me not to come. Which, of course, meant I was already grabbing my keys. I don't know if it was love, or guilt, or plain stupidity, probably all 3. But 3 hours later, I was driving through a storm that looked way too familiar. Snow whipping so fast it felt like the road was dissolving under me. My headlights caught something metallic off to the side, half covered in snow, and my heart crawled up into my throat. It was his truck, just like they'd described it, exactly like the photos from the search report. Only this time, there was a faint glow inside the cab. I pulled over, stumbled through knee-deep drifts, and yanked the door open. No Jonah. No footprints. Nothing breathing. Just a phone lying on the driver's seat, still warm. And the screen lit up with a notification. 1 missed call. Sam. I didn't touch it first. I just stood there with the wind screaming past my ears, trying to convince myself that warmth could linger for 5 years, that phones could charge themselves in abandoned trucks, that my dead brother hadn't just called from a place he said wasn't what I thought. But the truth was sitting right there, glowing softly in the dark. And I had a feeling this was only the beginning. I parked my truck a little crooked on the shoulder, half afraid the wind would flip it if I took too long. The storm wasn't a storm anymore. It felt more like something breathing. The kind of weather that doesn't just happen, the kind that watches. Jonah's abandoned pickup sat ahead of me, ghostly under the drifting snow. I kept expecting him to pop up from behind it, grin and yell that this was some twisted prank. He'd always been the one with the dark sense of humor. But the longer I stared at that empty cab, the colder my gut felt. I walked around the truck, my boots sinking deep. Snow swallowed the sound of everything, except my breathing. Then I saw them. Footprints. Not old, wind-erased smudges. Fresh. A single line of steps leading away from the driver's side door. My heart lurched. They looked like Jonah's. Same wide stride, same faint drag on the left foot from the ankle he'd twisted years ago. But 20 feet out, they just stopped. No turn, no stumble, no collapse. Just a perfect end, like someone had stepped off the face of the earth. I crouched down and touched the last print. The snow around it wasn't frozen. It was soft, almost powdery, as if the footprint was made minutes ago, not 5 years. Something crackled behind me, a faint mechanical chirp. I turned. Jonah's phone, the one I'd found still warm, was lighting up again. Not ringing, just flashing a missed call notification from a number that didn't make sense. No area code, just one word, unknown. And for a split second, in the static hum of the storm, I heard something that raised every hair on my neck. A ringtone. Faint, distant, coming from the tree line across the road. Jonah's ringtone, the stupid one he set years ago, the one that sounded like a cheap sci-fi laser gun. It beeped once, then again. I stepped toward the sound before my brain fully registered what I was doing. The snow got deeper, the wind sharper. The ringtone echoed through the trees, bouncing weirdly like it couldn't decide where it wanted to come from. And under it, I swear this on my life, there was a voice. Not formed words, just the shape of a voice. A breathy, broken, almost whisper. My name. I froze. My lungs forgot how to work. The phone in my hand buzzed again, lighting up with a crackling line of static spilling out of the speaker. At first, I thought it was just wind, but then it shifted, a distorted, dragging echo. Don't come. The same words from the call in my kitchen, only now the voice sounded strained, pulled, like it wasn't meant to speak human syllables at all. I backed away, step by step, never taking my eyes off the tree line. The ringtone cut off mid-note, leaving the forest too quiet, too expectant. And just when I reached the truck again, the storm gusted hard, throwing snow into my face. The gust carried something with it, not quite a sound, not quite a feeling, more like a presence brushing past my ear. It whispered, almost inside my skull, "Here." I spun around, heart slamming. Nothing, just white and wind. But the tracks were different now. They weren't stopping in place anymore. There were new ones. Small, shallow, barely enough to make a print, like someone was standing right behind where I had just been, watching me, and then walking toward the woods, one step at a time. I followed the fresh tracks only a few steps before the storm swallowed them again. The wind kicked up hard, like something didn't want me getting closer to the trees. My eyes kept darting around, expecting that warped voice to slip out of the snow again. That's when I saw a faint glow up the hill. Not bright, just a weak orange pulse behind a cluster of pines. A fire. Out here. In this weather. I didn't even think. I grabbed Jonah's phone, shoved it into my coat pocket, and pushed uphill. The snow got deeper, clinging to my legs, and the wind kept shifting direction like it was trying to confuse me. The glow grew steadier. A cabin. Old, wooden, the kind that looks abandoned even when someone's living in it. But the chimney was smoking. Thin, gray, fresh smoke curling into the blizzard. "Hello?" I called out, my voice cracking. "Anyone in there?" No answer. Just the whistle of snow sliding off the roof. I stepped onto the porch. The boards groaned under my weight, not from age, but from cold, like they'd frozen too fast, too recently. I pushed the door gently, expecting it to be locked. It swung inward. Heat hit my face first, uneven, like the room had warmed just seconds ago. The fireplace was alive but dying, chunks of ember collapsing on themselves. Someone had been here, very recently. But the room was empty. No boots by the door, no coats, no signs of a person warming their hands. Just dust and something else. A map spread across the table. Yellowed, torn, marked with circles in red pencil. Dates, storm dates, and names. All crossed out. The last one made my blood run cold. Jonah, December 14, 5 years ago. Beside it, written in shaky handwriting, "Not the storm, not weather. It chooses storms because we follow them." I breathed out, long and shaky. The floorboards popped behind me. I spun so fast my vision blurred. Nothing there. Just the open door, snow drifting over the threshold. But I swear I heard it. A faint, dragging inhale, like someone standing just out of sight, trying to remember how to breathe. And underneath it, almost blending into the wind, "Sam, Sam." The fire hissed and shrank as if reacting to the sound. My hands went numb, not from cold, but from the awful, crawling realization that whatever had been inside this cabin a minute ago, it might still be here, just not where I could see it. The cabin's warmth didn't feel comforting anymore. It felt borrowed, like someone else's breath still hung in the air. I shut the door to block out the storm, but the silence inside was worse. Heavy, listening. Jonah's phone buzzed in my pocket. Once. Twice. Then it lit up with an incoming call. Unknown. I almost dropped it. My hands were shaking so hard I had to brace the phone against the table to swipe answer. "Jonah?" I whispered. For a moment there was nothing, just a hiss, like wind blowing across a microphone. Then the whisper came through, stretched, thin and brittle. "Sam." The same voice from before, but wrong in a new way, too slow, like someone repeating a word they'd only heard once and didn't understand. "Jonah, where are you? Are you hurt? Talk to me." A crack of static sliced through the line. I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. Then I heard it. A wet, dragging sound. Breath? Movement? I couldn't tell. But it wasn't Jonah's breathing. I knew that instantly. Jonah always had a slight whistle from a broken nose years ago. This was deeper, heavier, like lungs that were learning how to expand. "Not him," the voice rasped suddenly. I froze. "Jonah, what do you mean? What's not?" "Not me." The words cracked, splintering into static. "It pretends when you look." A thud hit the side of the cabin, hard enough to rattle the window. I spun, phone still pressed to my ear. "What's outside? Jonah, what's out there?" A long pause, then a low, distorted whisper. "It found your truck." My stomach dropped. My truck was parked down the hill. "Jonah, what is following me?" The voice on the phone inhaled, but the sound was wrong, too long, like a breath pulled through a hollow space. Then it said something I've replayed in my mind 1,000 times since. "Don't let it wear me again." The call cut out. I stood completely still, staring at the wall as the shape of those words sunk into me like a hook. Wear. Not mimic. Not copy. Wear. Outside, something brushed against the cabin again. Not claws. Not hands. Something softer. Like fabric sliding over wood. Like skin that didn't fit quite right. I backed away from the door, pulse hammering in my throat. The fire behind me sputtered, shrinking as if suffocating. Shadows stretched across the floor, long and thin. Then, 3 slow knocks. Not loud, not threatening, almost polite. Followed by a voice, perfectly clear this time. Perfectly Jonah. "Sam? You in there? Let me in, man, it's freezing." My blood turned to ice, because it sounded exactly like my brother, and at the same time, like someone wearing his voice for the very first time. The knocks stopped as suddenly as they started, too suddenly, as if whoever or whatever was outside didn't understand how knocking was supposed to work and was just copying the rhythm it had heard once. I didn't move toward the door, not an inch. Instead, I backed deeper into the cabin, keeping my eyes fixed on that thin wooden barrier like it was the only thing keeping my sanity from shattering. "Sam?" The voice outside softened, warmer, closer to the real Jonah. "Come on, man. Please. I'm cold." My throat clenched. If I closed my eyes, I could almost believe it was him. Almost. Then the voice hit a wrong note, just a little too stretched at the end, like it didn't understand how pleading was supposed to sound. I forced myself to look away and scan the room, anything to anchor myself. That's when I noticed something I'd missed earlier. A dusty cassette recorder on a shelf near the fireplace. Next to it, one tape with a date written in faded marker. 12/14, J. The day Jonah disappeared. My hands felt numb as I slid the tape in. The machine creaked like it hadn't been touched in years. I hit play. Snow hissed through the speakers first, wind and static blending together. Then voices. 2 men. One was definitely Jonah. I'd know that laugh anywhere. The other was a stranger, a rough voice, maybe a hunter or some local guide. A storm hitting faster than it should. Doesn't feel right. Jonah chuckled nervously. "Weather's weather. We'll make it out before it gets bad." A pause. Wind howling. Then the stranger whispered, "Turn back. Something's wrong with the air." Another pause. Then Jonah, "Do you hear that?" The recorder crackled. Something moved close to the mic, slow, dragging, like something heavy sliding across snow. Then a voice whispered, distorted beyond human recognition. "Jonah." I flinched so hard the recorder nearly fell out of my hands. On the tape, Jonah gasped, "Who the hell? Sam? Is that—" Static exploded. The stranger shouted. Something slammed against metal, maybe Jonah's truck. And then, as clear as day, my brother's voice came through the machine. "Sam, don't come here." My blood iced over. Outside the cabin, snow shifted, softly, like a footstep, then another. "Sam?" The thing called through the door again, this time exactly copying Jonah's tone from the tape. "Sam, don't come here." It was repeating what it heard, not understanding it, just practicing. The recorder clicked off on its own. The cabin plunged into a silence so thick it felt alive. I didn't dare breathe, because now I knew two things. Jonah had heard something calling him with my voice before he died, and whatever did that was now standing inches from the door, trying to sound like him. And the worst part? It was getting better at it. The door creaked under a slow, testing pressure. Not enough to break it, just enough to let me know the thing outside was curious, like it was learning what doors were for. "Sam." The voice slid under the wood, too smooth now, too perfect, like it had practiced my brother's tone until it fit. I stepped back until my legs hit the edge of the table. The cassette recorder sat there, dead quiet, as if it had never played that tape at all. The fire behind me shrank again, flickering low, shadows stretching across the floor like long, crooked fingers. Something brushed against the window. I didn't want to look, but I did. At first I saw nothing, just swirling snow and the faint reflection of my own terrified face. Then the glass fogged over from the outside. Fog from breath. A shape leaned in close, too close. Its outline was almost human, but wrong in the shoulders, wrong in the length of the arms, like someone had stuffed themselves into a costume that didn't fit. I ducked down, heart slamming. My breath came out in sharp white bursts. The phone buzzed again in my pocket. Not a call, a voice message. I hesitated, then pressed play. Jonah's real voice, thin, strained, terrified, whispered, "Sam, it copies warmth, movement, sound. Don't look at its face." The message cut abruptly, ending with a wet scrape, like something dragging across ice. Outside, the figure shifted. The snow crunched under its weight, but the footsteps sounded uneven, as if its legs weren't bending the right way. Then it spoke again right next to the window. "Sam, look at me." The tone was wrong now. Still Jonah, but stretched too wide, like a smile forced onto a mouth that didn't know how to make one. I crawled backward until my hand hit the cold metal handle of a fireplace poker. Useless, but it made me feel less naked. Another knock, this time on the back wall of the cabin, then on the roof, then at the door again. It was moving around me, fast, faster than anything should move through waist-deep snow. "Sam?" Its voice came from the left. "Sam," from the right. Then, directly above me, muffled through the roof boards, "Don't let me in." That last part, it wasn't Jonah's voice anymore. It was my own, perfectly copied. My stomach dropped so hard I almost gagged. The cabin felt smaller by the second, the walls bending inward with every fake whisper. I pressed my back to the corner, fingers gripping the poker so tightly they throbbed. Outside, the thing finally stopped moving. Silence. Then, one soft exhale against the door, slow, curious, sniffing, learning me. I held my breath, didn't blink, didn't dare, because now I understood why the footprints ended abruptly, why Jonah's voice broke into static. This thing didn't hunt the way animals did. It studied. It borrowed. It tried on the people it took like clothing. And now it was practicing being me. I didn't realize I was shaking until the poker rattled against the floorboards. The thing outside grew quiet, too quiet, not retreating, just waiting, like it wanted to hear what I'd do next. My breath fogged in short bursts. I tried to steady it, tried to think, but all my brain served up were memories I'd spent 5 years burying. Jonah at 16, laughing so hard he spilled soda on my truck seat. Jonah at 20, limping because he refused to see a doctor about that twisted ankle. Jonah a week before he disappeared, asking if I wanted to ride up to the ridge with him. And me saying no, too busy, too tired, too wrapped up in stupid work that didn't matter. Maybe if I had gone, he wouldn't have gone alone. Maybe he'd still be... A new sound snapped me back. A tap, soft, hesitant against the doorframe, like knuckles made of ice. Sam. This time the voice cracked on the last syllable, like the imitation was wearing thin. I gripped the poker tighter. "You're not him." Silence. Then, "Not yet." My stomach flipped. The room seemed to tilt. I forced myself to stay still, to breathe through the rising nausea. It wasn't just copying voices, it was collecting them. I scanned the cabin again, desperate for something, anything that proved Jonah was alive, that this nightmare wasn't the only piece of him left. My eyes landed on the map again. Storm dates, names, dozens of them, all crossed out, all except one spot, circled twice in red pencil. The hollow. A scribble beside it read, "It only takes the ones who follow the storm." My pulse hammered. Jonah always chased storms. He loved their unpredictability. He'd follow a cloud halfway across the county if it meant a good shot for his camera. It didn't lure him. He went on his own, and whatever was out there found him. The wind slammed into the side of the cabin, rattling the windows. The creature's shadow flickered across the curtain, a long, uneven silhouette dragging something behind it. "Sam," it crooned. "Help me." My voice again. Perfect. But something about the way it bent the vowels made my skin crawl, like hearing myself talk in a funhouse mirror. I pressed my forehead to the wall, forcing my thoughts into one steady line. Jonah's message, the map, the tape. He hadn't just died. He'd tried to warn others, maybe even tried to stop whatever was hunting him. And now it wanted me, not because of who I was, but because I was next in the pattern. Storm follower, sibling, voice match. Another knock, this one harder, shook the door in its frame. "Open," the thing whispered, almost pleading. "I can't reach you." Cold crept up the door, frost spreading in branching veins. The handle twitched, not turning, just testing. My heartbeat thundered in my skull. I had two choices: wait here until the thing figured out how to break in, or run. Neither was good. But Jonah's voice echoed in my head, the real one, thin and terrified. "Don't let it see you!" My choice was made. I tightened my grip on the poker, took one slow breath, and stepped toward the back of the cabin, toward the tiny window that led into the woods. Because staying here meant waiting to be worn like skin, and I wasn't gonna let it learn me that easily.
The back window was barely big enough to crawl through, but right now it looked like the only sane exit. A thin layer of frost covered the glass, pulsing slightly each time the thing outside scraped against the cabin walls. I cracked the window open. A slice of night air stabbed in, cold, metallic, unnaturally still. The wind had died the moment I touched the frame, like the storm was holding its breath. Behind me, the front door shuddered. A long, dragging sound swept across it, like fingers made of snow searching for seams. How doors work? My voice, again, breaking in all the wrong places. I swung one leg out the window. Snow swallowed my boot instantly, sucking at my ankle like wet clay. The woods behind the cabin were pitch black, except for a thin line of unnatural white glow where the storm circled the tree line. That glow wasn't moonlight. It didn't flicker. It didn't move. It watched. I forced the rest of my body through the window, landing in snow up to my chest. The cold punched the air out of me, but I bit it back and stayed low. If that thing could mimic voices, maybe it saw shapes just as well. The cabin groaned behind me. A crack. Then, "Sam, where are you going?" That voice, Jonah's voice, moved from the front door to the side wall. Too fast, too smooth. I crawled toward the tree line, snow soaking into my sleeves, my knuckles burning. Every few feet I glanced back, and then I saw it. A figure stepped around the corner of the cabin, slow, awkward, as if joints bent in places joints shouldn't. At first, the silhouette looked like Jonah. Same height, same broad shoulders, same slight tilt of the head. But the legs were wrong. One too long, one too stiff, like it was trying to piece together a body from memory and getting the math wrong. "Sam," it breathed, testing the sound in the open air. That's when I realized the storm glow wasn't watching me. It was circling something ahead. A hollow in the trees where snow fell slower, drifting in lazy spirals like gravity didn't matter there. The ground inside the hollow wasn't white. It was smooth, glassy, reflecting faint shapes that didn't match the forest around it. A storm eye. Not natural, not weather. Jonah had circled this place on the map. I slid down a small embankment, heart hammering. The creature behind the cabin straightened, lifting its head sharply like a bloodhound catching a scent. It sniffed the air. Once. Twice. Then it tilted its head, too fast, too jerky, and whispered, "There you are." I bolted the last few feet, stumbling into the hollow. The air changed instantly, warmer, thicker, wrong, like stepping into someone else's dream. Inside the clearing, half buried in snow, were objects. A glove, a torn backpack strap, a broken lens from Jonah's old camera, a boot with the sole peeled off, and something else. A small, pale shape crouched near the center. Human height, human-shaped, but colorless, white as frost, unmoving except for a slight tilt of its head. It wasn't looking at me. It was looking past me, at the creature approaching through the trees. And as the storm closed in around us, the pale figure whispered in Jonah's real voice, "You shouldn't have come here, Sam."
The pale figure didn't move at first. It just crouched there in the center of the hollow, head tilted like a broken puppet left in the snow. But the voice coming out of it, that was Jonah. Not the twisted imitation I'd been hearing through the storm. This was him. Soft, scared, alive in a way nothing else here was. "Sam, you need to listen." My knees nearly buckled. I took a shaky step forward, but Jonah, or whatever remained of him, lifted a trembling hand. "Don't come closer, please." His outline shimmered like he was made of thin ice that could crack if I breathed too hard. Up close, I saw that he wasn't solid at all. He was a shape of frost and memory, barely holding together. Behind me, the creature stopped at the edge of the hollow. It didn't enter. It hovered there, swaying, almost afraid. The glow around the clearing flickered against its warped outline. Jonah's frost body whispered, "It can't cross, not yet." "Jonah, is that really you?" My voice cracked like a kid's. A pause. A breath that didn't shake the air. "What's left of me," he said quietly. It took my warmth, my voice, everything it could wear, but a piece stayed behind, stuck here with it. A horrible understanding slid into me, cold and heavy. "You're trapped." Jonah nodded once. Even that small movement made cracks spiderweb along his arm. "It follows storms," he said. "It hides in them, copies whoever gets too close, and when it's done, it tries to replace them." The creature at the tree line twitched, head snapping sideways like it was listening to every word. Jonah's frost body whispered, "It wants you because you came looking, because you care." I swallowed hard. How do I stop it? "You don't." His answer was instant, desperate. "You run." "But I can't just leave you." "Sam." He said my name the way he always used to when I spiraled. Firm, grounding. "You already lost me once. Don't let it take you too." The thing at the edge of the trees suddenly jerked a step forward, then froze like it was pressing against invisible glass. The storm crackled above us, lightning flickering without thunder. Jonah's frost body flickered, pieces of him falling away like snow dust. He didn't have much time. "Listen," he whispered. "It knows your voice now, your shape. It will follow you, but don't let it see you again. Don't answer when it calls. Don't look back." The clearing shook.
Snow lifted off the ground as if pulled upward by invisible hands. The creature shrieked, not Jonah's voice, not mine, but something raw, furious, starving. Jonah reached toward me, fingers breaking apart like crushed ice. "Go, Sam. Please, go." I stumbled backward, heart splitting open. The storm wind hit me like a wall. The creature lunged forward, slamming into whatever barrier held it out of a hollow, cracking it. One more hit, and it would be through. "Jonah!" But when I looked back, he was already dissolving into drifting frost, his final whisper barely reaching me. "Don't let it wear you." The barrier shattered behind me, and I ran. I don't remember half the run back through the woods, only pieces, sharp and disjointed, like snapshots burned into my skull. Snow exploding under my boots, branches clawing at my jacket, my breath tearing in and out like it was trying to escape me. And behind it all, that thing, that voice, calling out through the storm in every version of me and Jonah it had ever heard. "Sam! Sam! Wait! Help me! Come back!" Some of the voices were perfect copies. Some were broken, stretched, glitching like a bad recording. But they all chased me, overlapping, crowding the air until I couldn't tell which were real and which were bait. I didn't look back. Not once. Jonah told me not to, and I think looking would have given it exactly what it needed. By the time I reached the old cabin again, the windows were blown out, frost crawling over every plank like veins. The thing had torn through it while I was gone, searching, learning, wearing new shapes. My truck was barely visible through the whiteout, but I lunged toward it anyway, scraping my hands raw against the ice on the door handle. I dove inside, slammed the lock, and turned the key so hard it snapped the plastic. The engine coughed, stuttered, caught. And then, through the windshield, I saw it. A figure standing where the storm met the road. Tall, human-shaped, too familiar. At first I thought it had picked Jonah again, but when the wind shifted, the headlights caught the silhouette square on. It wasn't Jonah. It was me. My height, my build, my posture, even the way I leaned slightly to the left when I stood too long. My copy raised one arm, my arm, and waved. The same wave I gave the day Jonah left for his last trip, the one I always regretted because I didn't follow it with a hug. My copy took one slow step forward. I floored the gas. The truck fishtailed on ice, swerving wildly, but I kept driving, kept praying the storm wouldn't swallow me whole. The creature didn't chase. It just stood there at the edge of the whiteout, watching, the smile on its knot face stretching too wide as I disappeared down the mountain road. I didn't stop driving until I saw daylight. I've been home for 3 days now. I barely sleep. When I do, I hear Jonah's whisper dissolving in the hollow, feel frost flaking off his fingers. I replay every second and try to convince myself he's really gone, not trapped, not in pain, not waiting for me in that impossible place. The storm finally cleared from the news reports. They called it a freak blizzard. They always do. But last night, something happened. I was lying in bed when my phone buzzed. A new voicemail. No caller ID. I shouldn't have played it, but I did. Jonah's voice, soft, thin, familiar, whispered, "Thanks for getting away, Sam. Don't worry. It can't reach you there." A pause. Then a second whisper, this one deeper, offbeat, like someone speaking inside my mouth. "Not yet." the message ended. And then, from the living room, through the dark, I heard my own voice call softly, "Sam? You awake?" I haven't checked. I'm writing this on my phone from the closet. I don't know how long closets count as not letting it see me. I don't know what happens if I hear myself speak back. But I can feel it outside the door, studying, practicing, learning how to knock. And I think, God help me, I think it's getting better.